And if you're trying to show up from a place that's depleted, exhausted, distracted, or disconnected from yourself, people can feel that. Welcome back to the Quiet Leaders Podcast. Today, I want to talk about something that I've been thinking a lot about lately. And honestly, it's something that I think more of us business owners do need to hear. And it's that you do not have to be growing all the time. Now, before anyone panics, I'm not saying you shouldn't have goals or anything like that. I'm not saying you shouldn't want to increase your revenue, land new clients, expand your impact, or build something bigger. What I am saying is that growth isn't always measured by numbers. And sometimes the season that you're in is going to require something different. Now, lately, I have been noticing this pattern in my own life and business, but also in conversations that I've been having with other people as well. And there seems to be this underlying belief that if we're not actively growing, we're somehow falling behind. That if revenue isn't increasing, if leads aren't increasing, then something must be wrong. But I don't actually think that is true. And today I want to talk about why. Now, recently, I was talking with a business owner whose business has become remarkably stable. Year after year, she's generated consistent revenue. The business is healthy. The business is predictable. The business is working. It really is. But she has this goal to increase revenue by 10% year over year. And because that goal exists, she was looking at her numbers and feeling disappointed that she wasn't hitting that level of growth that she wanted. But as we were talking, I was realizing that she was completely overlooking everything that had improved. This year, she was more prepared. Her team was more organized. Operations ran more smoothly, and problems that happened the previous year did not happen this year. Things that once felt really chaotic was now feeling manageable for her. She had removed a lot of responsibilities from her plate. She created systems, she reduced stress, and had built consistency. And yet none of that was being counted as growth because the only thing that she was measuring was revenue. And I think a lot of us do this. We become so focused on that next milestone that we forget to recognize what we've already built. Stability is something so many business owners would love to have. Predictability is a win. Consistency is a win. Peace is a win. That's something that I've really been focusing on a lot lately in my life. And just because the numbers aren't dramatically increasing doesn't mean you're standing still. And this has been a season that I've really been in, and it's really been showing up in my life a lot lately, as I said, because over the last few weeks, I have not been in a season where I've wanted to push. I haven't been in a season where I've wanted to aggressively market my services. I haven't been in this season where I want to sell every day. And for a while, I found myself questioning that. Because as business owners, we're often taught that if we want more results, we need more action. More content, more networking, more visibility, more offers, more conversations. But what I've actually learned here is that the energy behind the action matters. And it matters a lot because people can feel that. They can feel it on a discovery call. They can feel it during a networking conversation. They can feel it during a training. They can feel it in your content. And when your energy isn't there, forcing yourself to perform rarely creates the outcome that you're looking for. Because people aren't just buying information. They're not here to buy a strategy. Instead, they want to buy that confidence, the certainty, the belief, the energy. And if you're trying to show up from a place that's depleted, exhausted, distracted, or disconnected from yourself, people can feel that. So what do you do when you're not in a season of outward growth? The answer is you pour into yourself. And I know that sounds really simple, but I think we often underestimate how important that is. Because when most people think about rest, they think nothing is happening. They think they're falling behind. They think they're wasting time. But that is not at all what I've experienced. What I've experienced is that some of the most important growth happens during the seasons when it looks like nothing is happening. Those are the seasons where clarity develops. Those are the seasons where healing happens. Those are the seasons where we reconnect with ourselves. And those are the seasons where we process everything that we've been carrying. I've been doing a lot of this lately. And those are the seasons where we create the capacity for what's next. Sometimes growth isn't happening in your business. Sometimes growth is actually just happening within you. And often that internal growth is what makes the next level possible. Now, this is where one of my favorite concepts comes into play, and it's the idea that sometimes you have to slow down in order to speed up. Easier said than done, right? And I think that's exactly what happens during these seasons. Because instead of constantly trying to force that momentum when your energy just isn't behind it, we create momentum. We rest. We have fun. We spend time with the people we care about. We do things that bring us joy. We reconnect with ourselves, and eventually something starts to shift. The creativity comes back. The excitement comes back. The motivation comes back. The ideas come back, and suddenly we're ready for that growth again. And not because we forced it, but because we actually created the capacity for it. And I think this is especially important for us integrators, because one of the reasons I teach the quiet leader model the way that I do is because I don't believe success should require that constant hustle. I don't believe you need 10 clients. I don't believe you need 17 offers. You guys have heard me say all of this before. I don't believe you need to constantly be chasing the next thing. What I teach is building a business around 2 to 3 aligned clients. Creating that recurring revenue, creating that stability, creating predictability, creating space. Because life happens. There will be seasons where your attention shifts. There will be seasons where your energy shifts. And there will be seasons where personal growth becomes more important than business growth. And when you've built your business on this stable foundation, you're able to navigate those seasons without everything falling apart. Because you're able to continue serving your clients. You're able to continue generating income. And you can continue moving forward without needing to be in that constant mode of like getting the next thing. And that's freedom, you guys. That is why I teach this model. I teach the model that's based on a 20-hour work week, because that is what I believe is what we are meant to be working. Of course, you can work more if you want. Of course, you can work less if you want. But that is what I believe makes sense, especially for a mom. So 20 hours a week, I'm able to dedicate to my business. And then the rest, I'm able to dedicate to my kids, to my personal life, to my hobbies, right? And that's that freedom. And that's one of the biggest reasons I believe so strongly in this model. So if you've been feeling like you're behind because you're not growing as quickly as you think you should, or maybe you're in a season where your energy feels different than it normally does, that's me right now. I want to leave you with this thought. Not every season is meant for expansion. Some seasons are instead meant for integration. They're meant for healing. They're meant for reflection. And they're meant for building capacity. And none of those seasons are wasted. Growth doesn't always need to look like more, like it doesn't have to be tangible. Instead, it can look like stability. It can look like peace. And sometimes growth looks like learning to trust yourself. That has been key for me this year for sure. And sometimes growth looks like slowing down long enough, guys, because some of us slow down and don't give it enough time. So slowing down long enough to become the person who's ready for what's next. Now, thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of the Quiet Leaders Podcast. If you're ready to build a business that gives you more stability, flexibility, and freedom through the 2 to 3 client integrator model, I would love to invite you to learn more about the certification program. You can go to mollymaris.com/certification, or you can find the details in the show notes. And until next time, keep leading quietly.